And I remember Byron calling me and saying, "Hey, listen, we got the head of A&R for Capitol Records is in Dayton, and he is here because he wants to sign the new band." And the new band had a new name, and that was Sun. And the next thing I know, we got a record deal with Capitol Records, and I'm recruited back in the band as the drummer of Sun. And I'm telling you, it was like fast and furious. I mean, start working on the first album. At that time, we were friends with Roger Troutman, his brother Lester, and Lester, who played drums. And the band was in different, was not playing together as normal. And so we brought in Roger and Lester, and these guys went into the studio down in Cincinnati, and they started banging out and playing songs that Byron had written. And the next thing you know, we've got our first album called "Wanna Make Love Come Flick My Bick." And in fact, the original name was "Live On, Dream On," but the song "Wanna Make Love Come Flick My Bick" was so popular, it became #1 in lots of markets all over the country, that they retitled the album and changed the whole front cover of the album to reflect the new single. So there we are, got this band. We're on Soul Train. We're playing all over the country, and it's a whole new. It's members of the Overnight Low, and this time with me back as the drummer, and a new world began for me.
Wow, that's incredible! Incredible the way that all came together. So
yeah, and think about Roger Troutman. That was the first time he had played a talk box on a song in "Wanna Make Love Come Flick My Bick." The chorus in that song was Roger Troutman on the talk box.
Yeah, and I didn't know that till much later, but I knew that song immediately because it was all over the airwaves.
Yeah.
At least the stations I listened to in Los Angeles, like K-Day. And that was a song that introduced me to the band. And
right.
I bought the single, then I bought the album. And I got to tell you, I was surprised that that song was not even a bigger hit, because it seemed to capture, it had that catchphrase that was so big from the commercial then.
Yes.
And I thought it should have crossed over even.
Yeah, it's a tough thing when it comes to music. I mean, I hear songs all the time that I think should be mega super hits because they are to me. But, the record industry being what it is, and timing and what stations are playing what, and, the stars need to align so often with these songs, for everything to happen at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
So, but, man, it was popular. I mean, we had a great time out there, and people loved that album. They loved the whole thing. It was a lot of fun.
What was it like when it hit? You guys were just couldn't believe it, or what?
Yeah, I mean, when you hear your music on the radio, it is a real surreal experience. In its own way, it's an out-of-body experience. It's so different, Scott. If you can imagine, like, back then, man, nobody was walking around with cameras. I mean, and when you're in your 20s too, like that, it's like, what do you want to call it? There's an aloofness. There is a taken for grantedness. You're not as mindful. You're not as, in terms of living in the moment. Your head is always into the next thing and going. And hey, here's where we are right now. I remember watching in Billboard, I'd see our record. There it was, 50 with a bullet. Okay. Bullet meant that it was a fast moving record. And then the next week when Billboard came out, it was 40 with a bullet. And then the next week it comes out, it's 28 with a bullet. I mean, you're watching this, and in the meantime, the phones are ringing, people are booking you, radio stations want you to come into their market, because while it might be 21 with the bullet or 28 with the bullet on Billboard magazine, it might be #1 in Los Angeles, which in our case, that was the case. We would be #1 in bunches in a bunch of cities. LA, #1. Detroit, #1. Dayton, Ohio, just all over the place. And so, but you're seeing your record climb. You're seeing it climb. You're seeing it climb. So it's, I will tell you with 50-50 hindsight when you look at this. And by the way, I'm not talking about like a monster smash hit. I mean, to us, it felt like that to us. But I mean, when I think about people today, Jay-Z and what they're what they experience when they have a monster hit. I mean, it's very different in our time when we were doing this. But I tell you, it was exciting. It was exciting. In retrospect, I wish we were taking pictures. I wish we were writing down more, documenting more.
Mm-hmm.
That just wasn't the time. But it was exciting. It was really great going into a music store, and and everybody would go in, and that's when the time when people would pull albums out, and you're standing there and you're reading the album liner and looking, and you're going through the records, and it was really fun going there. And there'd be people. You pull up in your bus. We had a wonderful big bus, and we'd pull up, and there'd be hundreds of people there, and they're clapping and they're shouting "Son," and they're there, and they want you to sign their album and all that. I mean, I remember there was one mother in particular came up to me, and her daughter and her mother came, and her daughter, and she was young. I want to say she was 10 years old or something. And I remember her mother was saying, "You're her favorite," she would say to me. She just loves you, and would you sign this? And and I remember signing it. I got down on one knee and told her how much I appreciated her loving the band, and how that she was my favorite little fan too. I mean, it's just those moments were really great.